Okay. So we are recording Realvolve office hours and we're talking about seller reports. And so, Mark, can you just a little bit of background? Can you give us a little bit of background about where your idea came from for doing seller reports in Realvolve?
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, there's a lot of background in a lot of things that we do within Realvolve that people may or may not know. One of the things that, how many of y'all are familiar with the Blue Sky Studios movie called Robots? It's an animated. You may, if you don't have kids, you probably have never seen it anywhere. On that particular movie, there is a character. His name's Big Weld, and he's a big bot, and he has a motto, and that motto is see a need, fill a need. And one of the needs that, and I've always taken that kind of to heart. And what I've always tried to do is figure out, what are the needs of our users, and one of the needs is regular communication with sellers. Sellers need to know what's happening with their listing. They need to know when things are happening. They need to know, what are you doing for them ultimately. And whenever we start talking about the listing itself, I mean, you've got the listing marketing, the workflows that automate processes for you. You are doing lots of different things for them. You've got SMS communication, email communication going out. You've got deadlines, appointments, reminders, all kinds of things that are happening. But if you don't communicate that to your seller, they don't know. They don't know what you're doing for them. And the seller reports piece is that that communication link that allows you to share with your seller what it is that you're actually doing. So the find a need, fill a need was that in itself. You guys have a need. You need to communicate with your sellers. How do you do that? Through the seller report piece.
Yeah, that was perfect. So I've just kind of thrown up here really quick. I've edited this a little bit. 1076 Moppin. And if I go to my listing tab right here, you can see that we filled in some things here. This is just kind of a mock listing that I use sometimes. So we'll just kind of get rid of some of those things. And the main reason is because I just want to show everybody, this little page right here. You have the details and the dates. Now, I have gone into Realvolve and I have very thoroughly gone through and gotten rid of any details or dates that I personally don't want to input. To be fair, if I was a legitimate listing coordinator or a listing agent, I probably would be filling in more details and more dates. But I'm just trying to keep it as streamlined as I can for the sake of discussion. And I've got some summary items here, some unique features, some important listing notes. But if I go to this seller reports page here, you'll notice it's empty. Now, this listing, according to what we have right here, is you can see that we've got it active. And we'll say that we listed it, I don't know, let's say we listed it on the 10th. So the seller report area is actually pretty simple. Check this out. I'm going to click on our little plus button. And you can see here, and Mark, kind of walk us through this. Like, what are we supposed to do with this little page right here?
So the seller report, it's supposed to be just a quick and simple method for sharing some information manually. There's like three different ways that you can get information in here. This is the manual way. This is probably of all the ways, it's probably the one least actually used because it is manual. It's something. So you basically select what type of communication that you want to tell them about. In this case, you've selected the showing by agent. There was some agent that was showing this property on November 12th at 2 p.m. Then there's a place here for the message to the seller. What is it that you want to relay to them that that's basically from you about what was talked about or whatever that you specifically want to tell your seller. there is another field to the right, which is the feedback. Now, that is a place where you can actually put what was the actual feedback from the person that did the showing or whatever. It's a separate area, and they're almost the same, but we wanted to separate them out as being, this is a message from me, the agent, to the seller. This is the feedback that we got, and there may be clarifying statements or whatever, so you can put in there. There is a section in there called agent notes, and that's really just kind of your own personal take on things, just so that you've written it down. It's not normally displayed anywhere other than just keeping track of the piece. Now, above, on the right hand side, above those two boxes, there is a contact. So you can select a contact. If you were the one showing the property and you have a contact in your database, or if it's an agent that showed the property and you have that agent in the database, you can select them from the list. What that then does is that ties this seller report information to a contact of some sort, either the actual potential buyer or an agent of another buyer. And then maybe what their feedback was, what their rating was from a scale of 1 to 10. How would you rate this? Now, one field that's on here that you don't typically ever touch is the date sent in the lower left. There is a date field at the top, which is when did this activity or whatever happen. But the date sent is a special field that identifies when was this activity or this note of information sent to the seller. And typically you're going to leave that blank, and you'll see why later, but you're going to leave that blank and then you're just going to hit save.
So that's actually a pretty good that's a fairly decent report that we've got here. So this is just one component. Now,
Right.
It's like what Mark was saying. We could go through and we could create, a bunch of manual reports like this. And, frankly, it's not a bad idea if that's all that we could do, but that's not all that we could do.
Absolutely.
We have an active listing here. And I think that what we probably want for a scenario like this is a workflow that will kind of help me do this without having to crack in here and do it. So what I want to do is twofold. First, we want to go into our workflow area and we want to create a workflow that's going to address we can actually address the need to reach out to our sellers and give them updates with Realvolve. But now we have a new need, and that's to do it as effectively and efficiently as we can. That's what this workflow that we're going to put together is going to address. So we're going to need a workflow, and we're going to need a template. And I'm going to keep this fairly simple. And Mark, feel free to jump in and add any thoughts.
Okay.
So the first thing that we want to do is we're going to click on our little plus button here, and we're just going to create a new workflow. And we're going to hit continue. Now, as with all these little sample workflows that I do, I'm just going to call it 00 sample seller reports. And the use with for this workflow, of course, is that it is a property workflow. So it is a workflow that we use with properties or listings. So this wouldn't work with a transaction or with a contact, an individual contact. And all this will do is periodic information entry for a seller report delivered at the start of each new week. When you all see what we do, it'll make more sense. But we're going to periodically have this workflow prompt us for information that it'll track, it'll log for us, and then it's going to put all of these things together and it's going to create a seller report for us. Now, alternate workflow. No, probably. Well, no, probably not.
You wouldn't. In this particular case, you wouldn't. You don't really worry about tags or the groups at this point.
So we're just going to click add. I could create it's funny, Mark. If I did create a group in here, I would create a group. Maybe I would call it White Glove or something like that. Like maybe I've got a $5 million listing or something like that. Or I actually know someone very recently. It's an agent that my wife works with, and she got a $20 million listing here in Georgia, of all places. And so you might want to create a white glove group that kind of prompts you and reminds you to do other more frequently needed tasks, for those more high maintenance listings. We're not going to worry about that, but I want to throw that out there that you could.
Yeah.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to add an activity to this workflow. And what I'm going to call this is, and this is where your choices kind of come into play, because we could make it a daily, or maybe we don't want to make it daily. But I'm going to make this one daily, and what we're going to call this is what happened with the listing today. And we're going to keep this as a to-do. I like using colors. I think it makes it pretty. So we're going to do that little golden color right there. This is assigned to, in most cases, we're just going to assign this to our listing coordinator. Now, if you're a solo agent, you just assign it to yourself. Or here's the other thing. If you're a solo agent, you can go ahead and make it assigned to the listing coordinator, because when you start this workflow, Realvolve is going to ask you who the listing coordinator is. But all the same, we're just assigning this to the listing coordinator. We needn't worry about the width field. But the scheduling of this is where you can get kind of where it can be fun. You could have it for a specific date, which I wouldn't necessarily, want to do that. Of course, we can always go none. We're just going to have to start 0 days after the start date. And this is where, I can do all sorts of things. In fact, what I probably could do is I could probably have this. I don't know, Mark. What do you think is the best date to start this is? I would almost say
I would typically do one of two things. You could either do it, from the listing date. So you could say, 0 days from the listing date. So you're starting from, or day one day after listing date.
Yeah.
Or
right.
in my view, it's one of those, if you're doing it this way, just set it up as a start date. And then whenever you start it, you pick a date whenever you want to start it, once you're actually going through the process of starting the workflow. So maybe you list it on a Monday and you want to start it the following Monday, because you want to give it some time or something. You may want to say, well, I want to start it on Wednesday. So you can just kind of pick and choose, whatever date you want to, if you're doing start date. If it's something that you want to always do it, one day after the listing date, then absolutely pick whatever date you want to use it for.
I actually agree with start date. I think that is the best date, because it does provide us the greatest amount of flexibility. So now that we've kind of got most of this stuff done, I think the next thing that we might want to look at, and Mark, this is where it gets a little, this is where it gets interesting. We can talk about repeating. We can also talk about reminders too. So I could have this remind me. Now, in theory, I'm in Realvolve, so I don't really need to worry about that, because it is going to be showing up. But if you just want to make sure that you get an email reminder, you can do that. I probably wouldn't, but it's there.
Yeah. The repeating piece is probably the most critical piece, and it kind of depends on how you want to do your updates. If you're trying to update your buyers and sellers like every Monday or every Friday, something like that, then definitely, choosing the option for weekly, and then choosing the day of the week from that list, and then it would do certain things. In this case, though, actually, you're doing the what are we doing today? So I would do this probably every day. Do it as a daily repeat if you want to do it this way, and then it's all automatic from there. as far as when to end, it's kind of never ending. You could do it for 30 times or, whatever, 60 times. At some point, you're just going to end it anyway. So,
Sure. Yeah, I agree. There's no need to, you can stop it, or, if we want to put a safety on it, I could make it like 90 or something. It depends on your market too. Like, if you're not selling something in a month right now in this market, then you probably need to consider some other things. Probably need to talk about price reduction or, improvements or, something, right? So anyway, we're going to do daily. And this is where things get kind of interesting. In my checklist, I'm just going to write what happened today, and then I'm going to put in this merge field. Seller, well, here, let's do this. There we go. Property seller report. That's the merge field I'm looking at. And you can see I just started to type in the word report, and that's where it got me. So what happened today? And it's giving me this little merge field called property seller report. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? Now, what are some other checklist items, Mark, that you would consider putting in here?
Honestly, that for me, and different people do it different ways, that's all I would ever do is just a quick reminder. Because it is a checklist. It is something that's going to be repeating each and every time. You don't want to be bugging yourself on unnecessary things and having to check it off or whatever. But in this particular case, by having it as a single checklist activity like this, it's going to pop up because it's got a merge field. And we talked about this last time about adding merge fields into checklists. It's going to automatically update a field. In this case, because it's the property seller report field, it's going to do a few extra things than just one field. It actually creates an entry like we did manually. It puts whatever you type in here as a title in there so that it gives whatever you're typing here as the message to the seller.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. And we'll demonstrate this so that it's more clear, because right now some of you are probably like, what are they doing? Don't worry, I'm going to show you. But one of the things that you're going to observe with this workflow is whenever I do my data entry for this workflow, I always want to make sure that I write it in a way that it's presentable to my client. This is not internal that we're working on right here. Now, the other activity that I want to do, it's actually very, very simple. But before I do it, I need to make a template. So we're going to open up our template menu here, and I'm just going to click new template. We're going to author a new one, and we're just going to call this, just in keeping with what I've been doing, seller report. Okay, my use with is a property. And we'll just say an update on your home. Now, in this particular one, I'm going to write this as simply as I can, but I'm going to blast through it. We did merge fields last week, so we're not really focusing that much on that, but we're just going to say hi, greeting, as promised. I have a list of all the things that have a list of updates for your home. We are doing our best to get you the best offer under the best circumstances possible. As always, please let me know if you have any questions. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put in this merge field here, and I'm going to type in the word property seller, or I'm going to starting to type the word report in, and we get that right there. And then I'll just say, Warm regards. Signature. Okay.
Okay, now before you go any further, and I don't know if you're going to talk about this though. So there are 3 different merge fields that you can choose. He chose the seller report one. What this will give you is everything in the seller report, whether it's been sent or not. So it will send. If you have 10 things in that list, it's gonna blast all 10 things in there. If you would, below that merge field, the seller report merge field, add one more line. Actually 2 lines.
Yeah.
Put in bracket, and then seller report again. Just type in seller report. Now you're going to see that there is a seller report dash non-sent only, and then a seller report sent only. So typically you're going to choose the non-sent only. What that will do is, going back to that field that I told you that you never fill in, that date field, if it is blank, it's been basically designated as not sent. So you may have 10 things in your list, but only 3 of them haven't been sent to them already. They don't have those 3, the date in those 3 fields. So whenever this email goes out, typically you're going to want to just send the ones that you haven't sent before. Now, there may be a case where, hey, here's a list of all the things that's happened through the period of your listing, in which case you would send the send report option that he chose first. But typically you're going to use the non-sent only.
That's really good point. See,
Yeah.
guys, this is good.
Now, there is another one, which is the sent only, which is the reverse. It's basically all the 7 things that you did already send them, maybe as a recap, and it doesn't include the items that have been or have not been sent. And maybe you want to have, and the reason for that might be, you might have a template that says, hey, here's the new things that I've done for you, and then have another section of, and these are the things that we had talked about before.
Yeah.
So you can have it as a 2-section email, one for new things, one for old things that you've already covered in the past.
Or, if you need to, and you're like, more on the admin side, you could have a template that basically you send to the agent, letting them know everything that's been communicated.
Correct.
So, a lot of flexibility there, a lot of possibility. This is a very simple template that we just made. Any of you needing help with something like this, click on the help button and reach out and just say, hey, Michael and Mark, they showed us this really cool template that we can use. Show us how to make it really quick. And so, or you can always just rewatch this video as well. So it'll be available on Facebook. But we've got our template made, and we need to pivot back to our workflow, and we're creating our final workflow step. So we're going to add an activity, and this is going to be called Weekly Seller Update. Now this is going to be an email, and so I'll color code it thusly. We'll make it blue. And what we're going to do is we're going to schedule this. Well, okay. Mark, how would you schedule this one? I would typically say just 7 days after the start date, but what do you think?
Okay, so this is where it gets a little tricky. You can do it lots of different ways, but the way I actually prefer doing it is doing 7 days after the start date. But in the repeat section, it kind of depends on how you set it up. In the repeat section, go ahead and leave it at 7 days. That's fine. Go to the repeat. And here's where I started going down this track. Go to the weekly option, and then choose either Monday, Tuesday, whenever you want to do it. If you want to do it on a specific date for all your users. Hey, every Monday I send out the updates, or every Friday I send out the updates to all my users. If you've told them that, then set it up like this. Otherwise, you can just do it as a weekly, every 7 days type thing, and it goes out whenever it goes out on whatever day. It's just repeats every 7 days.
That's good.
So it really just depends on how you want to do it yourself.
I like Monday myself, and so we'll just click on that right there. And then, of course, as always, we need to create an action for this. One thing I might write is you might want to make sure all items are, well, actually, we'll say this. Make sure remember to edit template before sending. There we go.
Why are you doing that?
Oh, just putting it there just to remind me, because I wouldn't want to, because I want to send out this weekly seller update. I want to send it manually with a preview.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to get sloppy by, well, but tell me what you're thinking. Do you think it's a better idea to have a little checklist item there?
Sure. So, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't myself, and everybody can do things differently. Myself, I would just have this as an automatic email that just goes out. Don't worry about checklists; it just goes out. If you're doing your activities and updating them, you're going to have content every time you go to send it out. You can still send it out manually if you want, but I would myself, in the cases that I've sent them out, I just do them automatically. So, in the morning you're drinking coffee, some of the things that you've already done for them just automatically goes out.
Yeah, and that's
it depends on how comfortable you are with the automation.
That's true. That's true. I think for some of us, it might just be like, oh, what if I had a typo in my, and so if we're going to do it automatically, which I think we might as well. The one thing that I just want to coach or remind everybody is, make sure that your data entry that you're doing is clean. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just make sure that it's clean. Make sure that you don't have any super obvious typos, and you'll kind of see what I mean. Let's create our action. And we're just going to call this seller update. And we're going to send a message automatically as an email. And let's see here. There we go, seller report. And we'll go ahead and update our last email date. And we'll just hit save. Now we're going to add here. And now that we've done this, well, one final thing, I forgot to do this. I always forget to update my assign to. Everybody has a little thing that they always forget to do, and for me, it's always the assigning of the task itself. So,
here's the thing that I would do on that though. I mean, it depends on how you've communicated with your buyer on what's going out, and if you're doing it manually versus automatically. In this case, it's going to come from whoever your listing coordinator is. If you want it to be sent automatically by you, then definitely put you as the instead of listing coordinator, put you as the with or the assigned to.
Yeah, and I guess technically, you probably listing.
Here's what it comes down to really is whether or not whenever you're sending the material, do you want it to come from you or do you want it to come from your listing coordinator?
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of cases, it's more of a mental game because you are the front face of your business and you're getting the updates. If they are getting the updates and they're coming from you, you're top of mind all the time at that point. Where if you are letting your listing coordinator do that, it's just like, oh, he's got somebody else doing that or she's got somebody else doing that. So think that through is all I say.
Well, then what you could do is you could have the daily task assigned to your listing coordinator and the weekly sending to your listing agent. I think that would actually make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Now, of course, in our little scenario here, and you all can kind of see just how easy it is to kind of play with this. We're all going to see here in a moment that it's all going to be me anyway. But let's hit update and let's go back to our listing 1076 Maupin, Bolivar, Missouri. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to our radar. We always go to our radar to start a workflow. We're going to click start a workflow here, and it's sample seller reports. We're going to click next. We're going to click next. And of course, then you can see here, I don't have any other users. If I did, this is where I would be assigning those things, but it's all going to be me. We're going to click next. Start date. Okay, so this is one that I could back start if I wanted to. I could go ahead and start this on like the 11th. What will happen, Mark, if I start it prior to today?
Well, in that case, you're going to have multiple repeats. I wouldn't necessarily do that because depending on what your setting was in the workflow itself on past due activities, do you want them created or not? I don't see the advantage of putting them back starting it in this case. But I mean, you could kind of go forward starting and start it on the 22nd if you wanted to, and then everything would flow from there. So it just depends on how you want to do that.
I could back start it if I wanted to and fill in old information. Though the funny thing is, though, it would all still list as being filled in today.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is just really simple. We're just going to start it for today, and we're just going to click done. And Realvolve, of course, is the wheels are going to turn. And it won't usually take too long because, frankly, this is not a huge workflow.
Yeah, it should be there.
And so if we refresh our browser,
just go to activities. It should be there.
Boom. What happened with 1076 Moppin, Oliver? Okay, so what does this look like? Let's click here. What happens today? Solar report. So I'm going to start typing. No,
you can go in there and talk about how you put it into MLS today. You saw that it was in Zillow today. You can see all the different things that you do on a daily basis. Place an ad on whatever day. Had 3 showings. All the different things that you want to tell them about what happened that particular day. You can certainly do. There's one more step that I'm going to recommend that we go over as well, because there's some things that you can just have it automatically add some of your tasks. So doing it manually, even this part is not always needed as well.
Okay.
So at this point, that activity's been completed. It's marked off. If you go into the showings section now, I'm sorry, seller report section. Seller report section. Now you can see that whatever he typed for today is now in there. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, that's if we go to activities.
You still have all the activities of things that still need to get done and sent and stuff. And I think because we did 7 days on a Monday, the following Monday isn't within 7 days, so it probably skipped it to the next Monday.
Yeah,
that's one thing that you got to be careful of as well, is how you're starting that based off of a given day. So technically, the weekly report won't actually happen with the way that we did it 7 days after, but we're starting it on a Wednesday. The next, whenever we say 7 days from Wednesday is Wednesday again, so it won't be on the Monday prior. So it won't actually happen until the following Monday.
Yeah, well, and that's one of those tricky little things, that we are just chagrined to do. You know what I could probably do though? I could probably just pull that template.
But you could have gone in there and done the complete option for that activity. What happens is whenever you pull up that template and send it, it will fill in the information for the items that you've got. So there's the merge fields. It kind of bullet points each one of the things by date. It does do them in reverse date order. Mm-hmm. So the newest thing is at the top, the oldest thing is at the bottom. And that way you can see all the stuff that's in there.
Yeah, so if that template is gone out automatically, you can see here it would have had all of this information, just like Mark said, in reverse order like this, and that's actually kind of cool. like, 11, 12, 21. Guests liked the house, but they felt the price was too high for the updates that seemed to be needed. Feedback, they were especially concerned, didn't like the condition, etc. And then today, no new activity. However, noticing several views in Zillow and Trulia, post a new advertisement on Facebook. So that right there would have just automatically gone out. I don't have to worry about it. The only thing I have to do, and I just repeat this again, I have to make sure that I'm doing my data entry cleanly. But other than that, that's what would have gone out. Now, Mark.
And whenever you're doing it from within a workflow,
Mhm.
it then finds those two items in the list and it will update the last sent date for you automatically so that the next time you send this, those two items are not on the list because they've already been sent, because we're doing the merge field of non-sent only.
That's really cool. So that in a nutshell is the probably what I would consider the simplest version of a seller report type workflow. But Mark, is there any other thing that we can do to kind of make this next level?
Absolutely. So go to your listing, like a listing workflow, a listing marketing, I don't care whatever workflow you use. So typically, this is a separate workflow that he set up. If you've got like a listing workflow of some sort, now this is pre-listing, you can do it on that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Go to any one of these, like order photos. Go ahead and go to that. Now, this is an activity that you may want the seller to know about. Hey, I ordered photos when I did them or whatever. Over on the right-hand side, there's a section there called Group. It's set for General. There's a little drop down for Report, yes or no. If you answer yes to this,
Yeah.
whenever you complete that activity, it automatically puts a little notation into seller reports that you ordered photos.
That's really cool.
So you don't even have to remember to type in stuff on a daily basis. If all of your activities that you want them to be notated and the seller to know about, just say seller report yes. And then whenever you complete that activity, it will automatically add that seller report item to the list. And then it gets updated on the following Monday, and then everything works automatically. So technically, you can set up seller reports and not even manually type in anything. You don't have to do the data entry unless you want to. Through the plus button that he showed the first time, you don't necessarily even have to use the checklist as a reminder. Those are things that are good, and especially if you want to make sure that you type in something every day or something, absolutely go do that. But for those people that just want to let the seller know that and maybe you want to do the manual entry through a checklist, maybe just do it once a week and everything else is done the other way. So it's all up to you. It's so configurable. That's one of the advantages of the workflow platform, is that you can configure it how you want and do your business the way you want to do your business.
Well, so let me cast a little vision, because I think that this is really good stuff. And I use my wife as an example often, but this is a really good example to use. She is she's a very capable and successful agent. She gets lots of listings all the time. But she has a marketing and design background. And she does websites and things like that as well. She's very talented. And one of the things that people will often hire her to do, and they'll pay her thousands of dollars to help her develop their listing presentation. And when people use her listing presentations, they get listings. And part of her listing presentation, aside from all the beautiful graphics and statistics and things that she shows, gives a list of the things that the would-be agent uses that are, I wouldn't say proprietary secrets, but they're things that make them stand apart. And so let's say that you as an agent go out there and you create a beautiful listing presentation, or you hire someone to help you do it. And it does matter. It's worth doing right. Well, if you're going to go to all that trouble to market yourself and get that listing, imagine yourself giving your listing presentation, and maybe the next day the people call you back or you follow up with them and they say, hey, we're ready to sign a listing agreement with you. And you get that listing agreement signed. Well, when you get that listing agreement signed, let's say you start your pre-listing Realvolve workflow. And while you start that pre-listing Realvolve workflow, go ahead and start a listing maintenance or seller report type workflow where everything that you're doing on the one hand is automatically updating everything that you're doing for your seller. So just imagine for a moment you have all the promises that you've made for the things that you're going to do, and then weekly showing how you delivered on every single one of those promises. And Realvolve doing most of that work for you. That's a powerful combination because what we're doing is we are taking as Mark would often say, that world-class experience, but we're also mediating it to the people that we're working with. And we do that because we want them talking. We want them to share how great their experience with us is. And I just think that seller reports, depending on the level of automation that you're willing to work with, can really, really help you show exactly how much you're doing. And frankly, I think it can possibly save you from losing listings in the future, because that person may say, Sue has always been diligent. She's always kept me in the loop. I'm not going to walk away now just because we didn't get the offer that I was looking for. I'm going to take Sue's advice and, we're going to, come back on, with, we're going to ask for 405 instead of 420. And, we'll see if that opens up, the offers.
Absolutely. So many times it's not a matter of the amount of work that you've done. You've done your job, but if you've not communicated the fact that you have done that, if you don't communicate it well, they don't know. And if they don't know, then they don't care whenever it comes, if it comes to expiration date, if they don't know that you've been doing your very best at helping them sell it, then, there can be challenges there and they may want to just let it expire and get somebody else. So this on a daily basis, weekly basis updates is the communication piece that will make or break you in the event that that it comes to that. So definitely update them whenever you can and make sure that they know that you're there for them and you're doing your job.
Oh, last question, Mark. What if I forget to, mark anything on the 18th and the 19th, but I get back to it on the 20th and the 21st?
So yeah, you can just delete the ones if for whatever reason you don't need them, you can delete them. The next one will pick up. You can't go ahead and do them if you want, but it will put them in with the current date. So that's
the thing I was going to mention too that I think is really cool. It's not going to give the date and just have a blank. It'll only give the dates when you've actually done something. So it's not going to look like, oh, they didn't do any, we just, I just think it looks a little better because of the way that we do it. If you don't do anything, if I don't have anything to fill in on the 18th or I forget to do it, totally okay. It's not going to say in that seller report that they get sent nothing on the 18th. So
right. Unless you type in nothing.
Yeah, that's right. Didn't do a thing. No. So listen, the seller reports can often feel kind of, deep or complex. But does anybody have any questions? We'll definitely be posting this so that you can, watch again on the Facebook group and on YouTube. But this is one of those veteran, Realvolve users really like this feature. And I'm always interested in seeing more agents use it. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Michael. Hi, Cindy.
Hi.
Hey.
I have a new admin, Renee.
Great.
And
Hi,
so
Renee.
she is learning Realvolve. No
Very
easy
good.
feat. No easy feat. So we have a couple questions. I know we'll have more for you next week. Do we have a minute?
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so she has an admin login, but so I'm trying to go through and update all of my contacts. So like, putting in a rating of A, B, C, a D, or adding notes like I did a pop by. But as an admin, she's not able to access those items. Does she need to go in under my name to be able to do that?
Let me check your account real quick. The question is whether you've given her access or not. Whenever she logs in, is she able to see any of your clients?
She can see them, but I get, and my son's just joined me as well. So I'm on I guess, 2 licenses. And so
Okay.
she has an admin account. And when I went to try to change the security settings, it says you can't change other people's information.
For 1 second, let me log in and I can take a quick look for you. There you are. Yeah, typically in this case, it's just a matter of making sure that whoever is logging in has the appropriate. So I have you, Cindy, I've got Renee, and then Dash. So
Yes.
if I look at the settings, I'm logged in as you right now. I go in under settings and then users and permissions. I look at Renee and look at the configuration. The question is how much access do you want to give them? So you do have all sections for all users. Okay, basically you're just not allowing her to delete transactions, delete workflows, or delete notes, it looks like.
But when I went to add it on at the very bottom, I think it's the last one.
There was no update option either. So you basically were not allowing her to update. So
and when I tried to check that to yes, it grayed out and the little thing popped up and said, sorry, we don't allow her to change other people's information.
It didn't do that for me. You should be go ahead and try it now. And if not, give me a call. It looks like she should be set up correctly now.
Okay. And
I was able to do the update option.
Oh, cool. Okay. Can you write an email and then schedule it to go out like in a week?
Yeah, not yet. That's something that, well, technically, if you're doing one-off emails, no, but that's what workflows are really for. The workflow is set up a workflow that says day 1, I do this, 1 week later, do this. That's the purpose of a workflow in all reality, is set up your processes one time instead of doing them as one-off emails.
Yeah, we were doing a Google form to do a mass email and to ask for updates for, people's birth dates and that kind of thing.
Okay.
So we were thinking we'd send it like December 1, but
right now, the way our emails piece is set up, we don't have a delay option. That is on my list to get added at some point, but it's just not on there right now. For the most part, one-off emails it's not that we discourage them, but we just, our thinking is, you've got a workflow platform. Let's utilize the workflow as intended, build out the workflow so that if you do it on a regular basis, it's automatically scheduled at that point. So
okay,
you don't have to worry about it.
Gotcha. And then, so let's say I did a pop by of 50 people of a pumpkin. Is there a way to add a note in mass and then have that update last visit?
Update last visit would be the challenge. Let me see here.
Because I know you have that update last contact.
Yeah.
But when I go
we-
into my people that I do, monthly pop buys, I have to go in each one to update the last visit date.
That's a great question.
Could you do it by tag, maybe?
mm,
But then I'm going to have a monthly tag because I thought, okay, if I just update, pop by October 21, but then I'm going to have a ton of tags if I do a monthly.
update last visit.
And can you add a note in mass?
You can do the note piece, unless it's been turned off. Let me double check that real quick here. Yeah. So what you can do is filter to those. Do a filter for those 30 people, okay, or bring them up, and then do the view all option. So whenever you do view all, the little chevrons, the 2 chevrons, it gives you a list of all the people. You can click on that top checkbox, the top button, and it'll select all of the 30 people in this case. Whenever you do that, the little menu in the upper right-hand corner, there's a 3-bar menu. They call it a hamburger menu. I don't know.
Yeah.
And there's an option on there for add note. If you add a note, it will add that note to the selected people. So you can add all 30 that way.
Okay. It's just not going to probably.
Yeah, I just don't have right now a way for you to update, which is something that is on our list, is some additional mass update fields. And making sure those date fields are on there would be probably a good thing to have. I see the need. I'll see if I can come up with something on that for you.
That'd be awesome. And then the easiest way for both my son and Renee to learn Realvolve, or is there a way at any time I can pay to get like a hour training?
Yeah, we've that is something that our team can do. Just reach out to our sales team or support, either one, and we can arrange some stuff.
Okay. And I haven't yet gotten my Zaps.
Okay.
done. Who do I contact to get the Zaps?
Same thing. I mean, you can probably do it during the same type of training thing or whatever. One of the things that we do have navigators. There is a fast start training piece option that you can do. But we do also have just a lot of, if you go to training.realvolve.com, we've got some training videos that are super simple to go on. And Jana, who is part of is head of the Navigator team, has come up with a bunch of brand new trainings as well. And it goes in, does some, questions at the end, see if you retain the training. And I can make sure that you get links to that as well, because I'm not sure that we've actually promoted that yet to anybody, but there's an all new training area that you probably have access to as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, I did the Navigator, which anytime I'm on one of these calls, I always highly recommend, because I wouldn't be using it had it not. And Charity was my girl. She was awesome.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. So, Navigator is an awesome program for those people that, if you're new to CRM or whatever, I mean, one of the challenges with Realvolve, and here's really what it comes down to. There's lots of CRMs out there. There's, I can name off all the competitors. The challenge is this: Realvolve isn't just a CRM. We are actually a workflow platform that has a CRM. Yeah. It has listing management, it has transaction management built in, but it's really guided. So there are things that we do that's different. But it's different in a good way because of the workflow platform that we've built, the underlying structure that gives you the power to scale your business is beyond just a CRM. You need something more than just CRM, and it's the workflow platform that actually does that for you. So Yeah, there's some things that are different and learning them, but there are a lot of things that are the same as well. So
Well, I think
hang
it's
in there. If you've
awesome.
got questions, definitely reach to our support team, and definitely reach out. Email us anytime that you need help, or we're there for you.
Okay, because then I'm a workman client, so
Okay.
I'm always pushing y'all in the workman.
Yeah, we love the workman people because they have the 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 business sense
Yep.
because of what Verl does. Verl's awesome,
Yeah.
and making sure that you guys know what you need to know to be a business person in real estate, and not just an employee of real estate, of a broker or something. So
Big thing.
Yeah. No, I have one more quick question on advice. So if we're gonna be doing a lot of lead generation, I mean, at what point should a lead be pulled into Realvolve? Once they become like a warm lead?
yeah, so my philosophy on that is, depending on how you're using it. I mean, are you using some kind of sales funnel? Are you using Firepoint? Are you using some
I'm
other
gonna be using Boomtown.
Boomtown? Okay, so yeah, we've got several users that use Boomtown, and the advantage of doing, you've got two options. You can use Boomtown and bring in the leads. It generates all the different leads and helps you bring those in. At some point, that person says, "Hey, I want to do business with you." At that point, you can use the Zap to zap it from Boomtown into Realvolve.
Mhm.
And then at that point, they're a client. So you can then do all the things that Boomtown can't do within Realvolve. You can do through the listing, the operations part of the listing management, transaction management pieces. So if you keep them over in Boomtown as your lead lists, it
Mhm.
keeps your main database in Realvolve much cleaner.
Cleaner. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the advantage of doing it that way. Now, some agents will go in and they'll just immediately bring them into Realvolve, and then they'll do all their stuff in Realvolve with the workflows. And the disadvantage there is you're getting a lot of the Fred Flintstones, the
Yeah.
Barney Rubbles, and they're just fictitious names that don't do you any good.
Yeah.
And by using the nurturing pieces within Boomtown, you can kind of weed those types of things out. Once they actually do sign on the dotted line, bring them over.
Yeah.
Perfect. That was our thought process, but I'd rather ask the experts.
Well, and
Yeah.
I'll make a shameless plug too. I whenever I'm always coaching people on the Firepoint side, which is our partner, that there's now a new button in Firepoint that they've had for a while that as soon as a lead signs paperwork, all you got to do is send to Realvolve, and it automatically sends that lead to Realvolve with all their pertinent stuff. And so I haven't had a chance to really look at Boomtown much, but I will say this: I think Realvolve, better than most of those, is still a superior platform for sphere of influence and past clients and things like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I refuse to give up my Realvolve. Don't touch my Realvolve. Yeah.
We build, for the people that actually get into it and use it, they see the real advantage. I've had people say, "Well, I tried Top Producer, and honestly, it doesn't have what I need." And or Wise Agent. There's lots of different CRMs out there, and we truly appreciate you selecting Realvolve. But we also know that there are things that we do that just aren't in the other products, and it's there because it's the find a need, fill a need. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've been helping agents for a long time, and I know what you guys go through, and you guys have to deal with a lot of crap with people in a lot of ways, and in doing that, there's things that we can help mitigate some of the challenges that you run into. So
Yeah. Well, I'm a fan. So if you ever need a referral, just send them my way.
absolutely. Well, thank you, Cindy. Appreciate
All
that.
right. Well, thank y'all for all you do. And I'm sorry more people aren't on here to learn from your wisdom, but I appreciate y'all doing these.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
All right. Well, y'all have a great day. Thanks
Thank you.
again.
Thank you.
Listen, guys.
Thanks, Stu. Appreciate that. Good luck on the seller report. I see you just put a message on there. Seller reports are awesome, and once a person actually starts utilizing them and seeing the power of what they do, it's a no-brainer. So
Yeah.
enjoy.
All right, guys. Everybody, take care today.
Thank you. You too.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.